welcome to Calculus 1 class. Today we're going to talk about the intercepts of a graph. This video will serve as a review for some of the calculus concepts that we will talk about in the later videos. All right. So what are intercepts? An x-intercept is referring to a point where the graph crosses the x-axis. A y-intercept is where the point crosses over the y-axis. So let's say if I have a x and y axis, and I'm going to draw a straight line, a linear function. Let me move it over here a little bit. So if I have a linear function, let's say my linear function, let me use a red color. All right. So the point where my graph or my function cross over the x-axis, okay, that will be called the x-intercept. The point where you cross over the y-axis is the y-intercept. All right. So what is so special about the x and y-intercept? Well, on the x-axis, okay, on the entire x-axis, all the y values are 0. So for my x-intercept, my job is to find the x value when we set the y value equal to 0. On the entire y-axis, all the x values are 0. So to find y-intercept, that means I need to find the y value of my function and set the x value equal to 0. So that's the basic idea of how we can find the x and y intercept. So for example, all right, y equal to x to the third minus 16x. So this is a cubic function. So if I want to find the x-intercept, that means I would need to find the x value when I set y equal to 0. So I'm going to set y equal to 0 equal to x to the third minus 16x. And I believe we can factor this polynomial. And that will give me, factor out the x, since x is in both terms, we can factor out x. That will leave me with x squared minus 16. And x squared minus 16 here is a difference of squares. Okay, this is a difference of two terms that are squared. So I can factor it one more time. So my x is still up front. We factor the difference of squared. That will give me x plus 4 and x minus 4. Alright, let's solve for x by setting each factor equal to 0. So my x set equal to 0, x equal to 0. If I set x plus 4 equal to 0, solve for x, that will give me negative 4. My x minus 4, set equal to 0, x will equal to 4. So for this cubic function, I actually have 3 x-intercepts. That means this graph will actually cross over the x-axis 3 times. Okay, so the third power, as you can recall, means at most 3 zeros. Okay, at most 3 zeros. So my x-intercept are 0, 0, negative 4, 0, and 4, 0. All right, let's find the y-intercept for the same function. Y-intercept means find the y value when the x is equal to 0. Find the y value when the x is equal to 0. So wherever I see an x, I substitute 0 in there. So that will be y equals 0 to the third minus 16 times 0. And I believe that will give me just 0. Alright, so my y-intercept is actually going to be 0, 0, located at the origin. Now let's try another function. This is a quadratic function, okay, or a parabola. So finding x-intercept first. Find x when y equal to 0. So we're gonna solve for x here. So 0 equals y squared. Excuse me. Y0 equals x squared plus 2x minus 2. Since this is a quadratic equation right now, I do not believe I can actually factor this. So we will have to use our quadratic formulas. And as you can recall, quadratic formula says x equals to negative b plus minus square root of b squared minus 4ac whole thing divided by 2a. Alright, so my leading coefficient is 1. My second term b is 2. My c will be negative 2. Alright, so let's plug in these coefficients into the quadratic formula. And I will get x equals negative b is just 2, plus minus square root of my b is 2 whole thing squared minus 4 times my a 1 times my c negative 2, and the entire thing divided by 2 times a. Alright, so what you want to do next is figure out what will be inside the square roots. So I'm going to put that in the calculator. 2 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 2. So inside the square root will be 12. So now I can actually simplify my radical. So negative 2 plus minus square root of 12 whole thing over 2, and square root of 12 will be 4 times 3, and square root of 4 is 2, and that will give me negative 2. Still up front, plus minus square root of 12 will become 2 times square root of 3 whole thing over 2. Now, since all the numbers outside of my radical can be reduced, okay, it gotta be all the number on the outside can be reduced for me to reduce. So I can reduce all these numbers out here by 2, and that would just leave me with negative 1 plus minus 1 times square root of 3, or just square root of 3. Alright, so this will be my x-intercept. So my x-intercept will turn out to be negative 1 minus square root of 3, comma 0, and the other x-intercept negative 1 plus square root of 3, comma 0. Alright, now let's do the y-intercept. Y-intercept is where we have to substitute 0 for x. So if I put a 0 right here, that will be a 0. Put a 0 here, times by 2 will be 0. So 0 minus 2, my y-intercept will be 0, comma negative 2. Alrighty, so alright, now we'll conclude our video on the intercepts. Thank you for watching.